France in the War of Spanish Succession, 1701–1714. The War of Spanish Succession, 1701–1714, was one of the most significant conflicts in early 18th century Europe, and France played a central role as both an aggressor and a defender in this complex struggle for European dominance. The war was sparked by the death of Charles II of Spain in 1700, who died without an heir, creating a fierce contest for the Spanish throne. At stake was not only the succession to the Spanish crown but also the balance of power in Europe. 1. The Bourbon claim to the Spanish throne. When Charles II of Spain, the last of the Habsburg dynasty in Spain, died, he left the throne to Philip of Anjou, the grandson of King Louis XIV of France. This decision alarmed European powers, particularly Austria, Britain, and the Dutch Republic, who feared that a united French-Spanish Empire under the Bourbons would upset the delicate balance of power in Europe. In response to this, the Grand Alliance was formed, composed of Austria, Great Britain, the Dutch Republic and other European states, to contest the claim of the Bourbon family. The alliance supported Archduke Charles of Austria, who also had a claim to the Spanish throne, and sought to prevent the union of the French and Spanish crowns. 2. The early years of the war. During the early stages of the war, Louis XIV of France and his grandson Philip V of Spain enjoyed several notable military successes. The French and Spanish forces combined to defend Philip V's claim, and they achieved significant victories in battles such as Blenheim, 1704, and Ramillies, 1706. However, these victories were tempered by growing internal issues in France, including mounting war costs, logistical challenges, and resistance from within the Spanish Netherlands. 3. The turning point, military struggles. While the French maintained a strong defensive position, the war was long and costly. France faced difficulties in supplying and coordinating its army over the course of the war. In 1709, the Battle of Malplaquet, one of the bloodiest battles of the war, saw the French forces under Marshal Villars put up a fierce resistance but ultimately suffer defeat. The war took a toll on French resources, and the French economy began to show signs of strain. Despite setbacks, Louis XIV remained determined to secure the throne for his grandson, and Philip V continued to hold on to the Spanish crown, largely due to French military support. 4. The French recovery and victory at Denain. The tide of the war began to turn in favor of France in 1712, following the Battle of Denain. Marshal Villars led a decisive French victory against the Allied forces, forcing the British, Dutch, and Austrian forces to retreat. This victory effectively secured the Bourbon hold on Spain, as it broke the Allied siege of the Spanish Netherlands and reasserted French control over key territories. 5. The Treaty of Utrecht and the end of the war. By 1713, after years of military setbacks and the heavy toll of the war, the French were exhausted, and Louis XIV was ready to negotiate peace. The Treaty of Utrecht, 1713, brought an end to the war and confirmed the Bourbon dynasty's rule in Spain. However, the treaty also stipulated that the French and Spanish crowns would remain separate entities to maintain the balance of power in Europe. France ceded several territories including Newfoundland and Nova Scotia to Britain, and Gibraltar was granted to Britain, becoming a critical strategic naval base. France's role in the War of Spanish Succession was critical in determining the future of Europe's balance of power. The French successfully secured the Bourbon monarchy in Spain, but the war came at a tremendous cost in terms of resources and human life. While France emerged victorious in the sense that Philip V retained the throne, the war left France weakened and led to a reshuffling of European alliances, setting the stage for the end of Louis XIV's reign and the dawn of a new European order.